Hey all, how you all doing? It's been a while, hasn't it? So, some of you might remember this website, this part of my website that I've made a while back about the Ultimate Windows 10 Optimization Guide. I may end up adding a few more things here because I've spent quite a bit of time just fine-tuning things, and right now, the way I've set it up and have it all connected is probably the most amount of performance I'll be able to squeeze out of this hardware that I have. So for those unaware, my system is pretty decently rigged out. We have a i5 10500 which is running at its full boost speed of 4.2 GHz, which is really nice. It can hold this for hours without any crashing, which is really good. 32 gigs of DDR4 RAM, running with a XMP profile, XMP1 I believe, which is at 2666. It's not the fastest RAM, but it's also not the slow. I think it's one of the slower RAMs actually when it comes to DDR4. We have all our drives here with one SSD, which is my OS drive. If you don't have Windows on an SSD, what are you doing? You shouldn't be. If you can, try avoid using hard drives as your OS drives, because they're are just performance benefits switching to SSDs. Then I have these two hard drives here. This is my 2TB game drive where I store all my games and such, and this is my 1TB hard drive to which I'm storing all my footage, project files and other things. If it's a larger project, I'll store it on my secondary hard drive, but that's another thing. For recording, I'm currently using my integrated Intel GPU, so I don't end up using my dedicated one, and I also use that for streaming at 1080p and such. It's a really good way of like balancing things out. So if you can, enable the integrated GPU on your CPU and use that for encoding various things so that you can keep all the performance of your dedicated GPU. It doesn't mean that if you don't have any displays plugged in, it's not gonna be used. I'm using it right now to record this stuff, and my GPU is just chilling. You might be wondering, hold on, why does it say 580X? I'm not running a 580X, I'm still running the RX 480. Which is the GPU that I've recently cleaned. Temperatures are dropped quite decently. The reason why I'm telling you this is I actually used custom drivers to get what I wanted out of it. It's something that I haven't really touched upon in the last video when it comes to Windows performance optimizations and such, because I didn't feel like it was important. So what I did is I was looking online, looking at forums in terms of improving performance on your rig or on my machine specifically, and what I found is by using Nime Zone drivers, which are supported under Windows 11, but I'm not running Windows 11 anymore. Windows 11 is quite frankly, in my opinion, garbage. So I'm using Windows 10 because I'm not only more familiar with it, but it's a lot more stable. And sure, Windows 11 might have slight performance improvements, but that's something I'll have to test, you know, see if everything works fine and such. I should mention, I tested these drivers on a separate install of Windows 10, which I had on the SSD. I've been testing these for about a week, and I wasn't going to recommend it to my friends right away because I wasn't really sure. So I've been just testing these drivers for my GPU on a separate partition on my SSD, so just to make sure it all works as it should. The reason why I'm actually using these drivers and not the official ones is that these drivers actually have some optimization improvements, especially when it comes to scaling with higher thread count CPUs and higher clock speeds and possible firmware optimizations. Why am I saying all of this? It's important to do your own research on this. What I'm showing you is a method to the madness that I made my workstation, and I'm not recommending this unless I know that it works for me, but it may not work for you. So make sure to just do a lot of research, checking various articles and forum posts, just to be sure that you're not doing anything that it shouldn't be doing. You should just really make sure to check everything if you can. So it does improve performance by a little bit. However, it mainly is focused on improving your like 1% lows, which determine how smooth the experience is. So what you need to realize is that yes, higher averages would be nice, but it's actually more important to have higher 1% lows or 0.1% lows than having higher average frame rates. Let me explain. The 0.1% lows basically show you the worst case scenario, and if you factor all that in, if you are reaching at least somewhere around 60 or maybe somewhere around 30 to 60 FPS, you will have a fairly stutter-free performance. like experience. But again, it highly depends on the title you're running, how well it has been optimized, what API or graphics API should I say it's using, what types of drivers, what types of tweaks you've done to your system. There are a ton of factors when it comes to this sort of stuff. I can't possibly cover everything, but I'm showing you the changes that I did. So take everything that we did in the last video discussing everything here, and if you have an AMD GPU, make sure to look up a list of supported hardware and such before you install these custom drivers. I'm not gonna link them below, or maybe I will, but all you have to look is just look up third-party driver, Emmer9 zone drivers, or I'll just link it in the description box. Make sure to just do your own research just to be safe, and if you can, just really make the separate partition to install these drivers too. Also, one more thing, if you plan on installing this natively onto your hardware, which is what I did, make sure that you do one thing. I think it's under graphics actually. Under graphics and advanced, I believe. Yes, so open up your AMD control panel. If you install these natively, make sure to use DDU, which is Display Driver Uninstaller. Use that first, clean up everything from there. Also make sure that there are like settings within DDU to tick the box so it doesn't look for driver updates, because like Windows will try and install those drivers. If you want to avoid all that, disconnect your internet, try installing the drivers that way, but bear in mind that during the installation process you will have to plug in your internet, because there are some tools that it tries to download using command line utilities to make sure it installs the driver. So you do have the basic driver package, but it needs some extra few things here and there to download from the internet. So if you can, Google or look up how to disable driver installations within Windows 10 or 11. Yeah, there it is. Change device installation settings. So that's what you want to look up. It opens up with this box right here, and in this box make sure to pick no. The reason why we want to do that is we want to prevent Windows from installing those drivers for us, which is the last thing we want. So make sure that's ticked, and within DDU you can actually tick the same thing. So within here, click options, and here it is, prevent downloads of drivers from Windows Update when Windows search for a driver of a device. What this basically means, it prevents any other drivers from being downloaded. I do not have this ticked because I don't use it as much. I can just tick it and it will do the same thing. It will also add some extra things. So you could use DDU for this, which is Display Driver Uninstaller, which I just showed you, to do the same thing. It's actually a bit more reliable than the Windows thing itself. After you've installed all that and did some of the optimizations, there's one more thing that's pretty important. One pretty important thing is, if you really want to squeeze out a lot more performance, you want to minimize the amount of time it takes for Windows to actually, like, you know, produce sound. So one important part of like games and utilities and tools in general is the sound API within Windows. Sure, it is really heavily optimized and it is really fast within Windows 10 and especially in Windows 11. However, it's not fast enough. At least for my taste, it's not fast enough. So one thing you can do is you can actually install a different tool, a different piece of software. So what Real is, I'll link this GitHub repo down in the description as well. But what Real is, it's a tool or utility to reduce audio latency within Windows. One really, just in case if you have a different sound card or anything, make sure it's using that driver that's provided by Microsoft, which they also tell you here. In case you don't have these, this is what you have to do in order to make sure that it uses the Microsoft provided drivers for your audio setup or your audio stack. After all that, you can download the latest version of Real and you can launch it, and it will integrate or work with the API in such a way that it will force it to run in a low latency, high performance mode, which will result in higher CPU utilization. Which is why, if you really want to take advantage of this, you need to have a decent CPU. It really depends on the title, the amount of software you have installed, what kind of background processes you're running, basically how clean your software stack is. Because you can have the fastest hardware, but if you don't take the time to optimize your software experience, you will end up hurting yourself instead of, you know, making use of all that power in your hardware. My GPU isn't particularly the fastest GPU that there is. It's actually a pretty decent GPU for gaming. It's actually a bit faster than the GTX 1060, but it's a bit slower than the GTX 1070. So it's kind of in between that ballpark. Again, you just want to make sure to do your own research before doing anything. I just want to share with you this information, which is what I've come up with after spending quite a bit of time testing all these things and utilities in place, so I can actually show you all this stuff. So, right now, I'm still looking for a low latency audio interface, but as it is right now, it's a really fast and really decent system, and it highly depends on how you look at it, but from my point of view, it's actually a really fast and really nice experience, just because I'm willing to take risks and just try new things, because there's a ton of untapped potential in your hardware, and if you don't take the time to optimize the software side of things, then you're just losing performance. You're throwing money out of the window for no reason. I don't think I'll be editing this that much. Maybe I will put in a background song or something. Would have to ask if that's okay, like ask that person if she's okay with it. I will link her channel down in the description below if she allows me to use it, but I might link it either way, so it doesn't matter. So yeah, that was it. I'm sorry I haven't uploaded for about a month, or almost close to 2 months actually. I've just been really busy with work and life and stuff. I mean, look man, I would like to make more content like this, but it takes time to make videos like this, to research, testing, and it takes time. And I quite simply don't have that amount of time to do all these things. And if I do have a bit of time, I like to experiment, see what works, see what doesn't, take notes of everything, then have to compile everything into something of a coherent video. It takes time to do this sort of stuff. So yeah, bear it in mind if you plan on doing something like this, because researching on this stuff and providing all the information on my website it's not an easy task, and I'm sure a lot of people will actually agree with me on this, because Windows is a behemoth that has to be tamed if we want to get our power of our hardware back. It's really nice to have such fast computers and setups, but what point is it if you cannot really utilize it? So yeah, with that said, I want to thank you for watching this video. If you found it helpful or interesting, share it around. And if there's interest about this, I will or would like to make more content. One day in the future, I'm not trying to make any promises, but I might make a video explaining why I jumped from maining Linux for about a few years at this point. Why did I jump back to Windows, and why am I using Windows? And I would like to try and explain everything. And hopefully I won't anger a bunch of people in my community, but it's more of a personal preference thing. You will understand if that video ever gets out, ever gets made. So yeah, that's all I have to say. Make sure to stay safe, have fun, and I hope to see all of you beautiful people next time. Bye for now.